Hello, hello, and welcome to Queen's Table. We have a very special guest on this Tuesday night. Hello, Debbie. Who is your
Hi, darling. How are you?
Finalist. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, I'm a bit laid up. I've got a tissue and a bottle of water, but thankfully this has come a week before Miss Great Britain Finals, so hopefully I'll be rid of it by next week. But if I start coughing, Dion, I'm absolutely sorry already.
Yeah, honestly, don't worry. I think there's so many coughs and colds going at the moment. You need a swig of water or you need to blow your nose. Don't worry. I don't think anyone's going to mind.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's lovely to see you. It seems like quite a long time. Do you know what? It's about this time last year, I think we spoke about your journey to Miss GB. I think it's actually gone so quickly. So first of all, you've obviously competed in Miss GB before. Can you tell us why you're back at that system and a little bit about the system?
Do you know, I've been to watch Miss Great Britain for years and years because I've sponsored girls. I just love the event. I think I'd been for 4 or 5 years prior to actually taking part. And I just loved it. Absolutely love watching. It's such a great atmosphere. The layout out of the room so lovely. Everywhere's dressed up really nice. The staging's beautiful. The event itself, the lighting, everything. You know, with running my own events, it's just lovely to see everything that's done so slick and so professional. And I'd sponsored a few girls for about 3 or 4 years running. And I went when Kat Henry was competing in the Ms category, and April won. And I remember seeing Kat come out on the stage, and I was just in awe of her, and she just blew me away. And even though there wasn't a classic section at that point, I was just in love with the system, thinking this is amazing how all of a sudden this epic pageant that spanned decades and decades, almost 8 decades, is now being so inclusive that older women can take part, although there was no classic section. And I remember going home and emailing the directors of Miss Great Britain and saying, I know I'm really old, but can I please take part in the Ms? Anyway, it came about that there was a classic section. I entered and took part in the first year last year. And, you know, I had so much fun. It was just so great being away for 2 days, meeting so many, new friends and old friends, because there were women there who I'd known for years as well, who were competing alongside me. We were all staying in the same hotel on the same floor, and we had 2 days of absolute bliss and fun. And I got off the stage after the competition and I just thought, I need to go back. I just loved it so much. And literally straight away, I'm in for next year. I can't believe it's only a week away, though. It seems, I literally can't believe it's come around. So I suppose it feels 5 minutes ago, but then it seems forever ago as well. But I can't believe it's come around now and it's next week. I'm so excited.
I know. I can't believe it's a year ago. I was there watching you on that stage. I watched that moment last year. And going back to the point of they opened up classic division last year. How important do you think that is for women of our sort of age?
It's just so important to be able to be included. You know, there are so many women as well who I know who competed back in the 80s and the 90s, who have now got daughters who compete. And do you know what? It doesn't matter how old you are, you've still got that in you. And I absolutely love pageantry when I was a teenager and early 20s. And it was just something that I love doing. Still to this day, I've got friends who I used to take part in pageants with back in the 80s. And do you know what? It doesn't matter that we're this age. We both do a lot of swimming. Swimming isn't going to restrict me if I'm in my 50s. If I want to go running or join the gym or take up ballroom dancing, I can do that at any age. So why should pageantry be restrictive of our age? And now it's not. It's so inclusive. It's so diverse. The best of the best of the best, i.e. Miss Great Britain, have now got on board with that and are so inclusive with including the classic section. And it's just incredible that that's happened now. It's been a long time coming, but we're there. And us classics can now say that we are competing at Miss Great Britain. It's amazing.
I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. And going back to like, you know, a few years ago, I mean, isn't it wonderful that maybe like some women can actually compete alongside their daughters? They could be in a
exactly
in the Miss, you know, so it's absolutely fantastic. And I think,
and there are mother and daughters competing. Laurie and Amy are competing on the same stage and having so much fun together, and that's brilliant. They are having such a great time together. What an amazing experience.
Exactly, that's it. I mean, it's a magnificent show and one I enjoyed very much last year, and it just it absolutely blew me away. It's a fantastic event as well as a pageant. It's just, you know, it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to see you on stage again next week. But yeah, 1 week. So going back to mentioning swimming, you're a very keen open water swimmer. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I've always been a swimmer. I used to compete at national level when I was younger as a synchronized swimmer, not an open water swimmer. I was a synchronized swimmer. And I remember it was before lockdown, actually. I don't know how this came about. It was quite bizarre. An advert came up on my phone. I think it was on a Facebook feed about the Great North Swimming. It's just something I'd always wanted to do. And it was so bizarre. I just went click, enter. I didn't even think about it. Click, enter. It was really weird. Like. I know. So paid, entered, date, in, blah, 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 done. And then I thought, well, what have I just done? I've signed up to swim 5 miles in Lake Windermere. What have I just done? And then COVID happened and all the pools shut, so I couldn't go and train. And I found an open water swimming club in Holmes Chapel, which is about 15 miles away from where I live, called Hughes. And even though COVID restrictions were in place, the open water swimming could still take place as long as you were in the area, the catchment area, and you weren't going to travel too far. So I started training in the lake. But I remember the first time I went, I took my dad. And so I had to buy a wetsuit because I hadn't got a wetsuit. I thought, what am I doing here? So I bought this wetsuit. Turned up on a Sunday morning. It was 5 degrees or 5 or 6 degrees. It was freezing. Ooh. And they put out a track in the lake. So they'll put out different buoys and they'll say, that's 300 metres, that's 500 metres, blah, blah, blah. And this buoy was about 200 metres away. And I thought, I can do that easy. I couldn't swim halfway. I think panic set in because it's so cold and I didn't know what to expect. I got halfway and I swam back and my dad said, oh, are you all right? Were you just warming up? Because in my dad's eyes, I am Duncan Goodhue. For anybody who's old enough who can remember, Olympic swimmer. In my dad's eyes, I'm Duncan Goodhue. And I said, oh, I just really wanted to just do that little bit, Dad. We'll come back next week. Literally, my heart was racing and it was just panic, I think. So I went the following week and I thought, right, just calm down and do a little bit. And I actually went 3 or 4 times further than I did the week before. And I think it's just getting used to it. I can swim, and anybody who can swim, it's very, very different swimming in a pool to swimming in open water. You've got to sort of really calm down and lower your heart rate, and you need to acclimatise in the water. So anyway, so I started training, and then the pools reopened. So I carried on training in the pool and then went to do the Great North Swim at Lake Windermere, which was literally one of the best things I'd ever done. I've since done a lot of lake swimming. I swam at Salford Quays. It was freezing on New Year's Day this year, so I did the New Year's Day swim, and I love it now. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've had a new wetsuit, a much better wetsuit now, and I go up to Swim, which is, they run their clubs in Holmes Chapel and Salford Quays, so I go to their open water swim events. And there are a few more places that I really want to swim, so I've been looking at different swims and different places, and it's just great. It's great for the menopause, by the way. Absolutely brilliant for the menopause. You get out and you're freezing cold, but you just feel like, oh my God, that was amazing. You just feel exhilarated until you do it and you get out of the lake. You don't realise how exhilarating it feels. And if we go on holiday, I always do sea swimming and things. So yeah, I love it. And I know you do as well.
Yeah, I know. We love our swimming, don't we? It's absolutely fantastic, but it just keeps you feeling so fresh. I mean, I don't do the open water swimming yet, but I have said to you, I'm going to probably do this next year.
You did say you'd do it with me next year, didn't you?
I was going to do it this year, but then Little ended up going to international. So I did have an excuse why I didn't do it this year.
Actually, this year it was moved because I was booked on to swim. A friend of mine who I'd met her last year, so I'd never known her before. I didn't know her before the swim last year. She's up from the northeast, and we only met open water swimming. She'd booked on for the Friday. I booked on for the Saturday, and on the Friday she messaged me. She said, "Oh, Debbie, I hope it's better tomorrow because it's been completely blowing a gale." It was in the news and everything about the Windermere swim. And they've been pulling people out of the water, putting them into rescue boats because there were waves going over, and it's not, not your normal lake swim. Anyway, I got home on the Friday night and I had an email from the Great North Swim saying that it was cancelled for the following day. So I thought, oh no, because I've got loads of sponsorship. What am I going to do? The next email was from our swimming club, who'd said, if you want to come and do the distance at Salford Quays over the weekend, we'll set out a track. So they set out a Windermere track at Salford Quays.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually in Windermere, but I did do it. I did do it in the end, the distance, but it just wasn't in Lake Windermere. But we roll.
That's good though. That's good. Glad that they sort of improvised there and you got to do. Absolutely amazing. But no, it's good to see someone just being so passionate about swimming, and it does make you feel good. I mean, my stepsister, she put on a lot of weight after having 3 children, and she lives in Brighton, and she actually swims every morning, and she's looking fantastic. And now she started swimming Lent. She's doing stuff for charities, all sorts of things, and it's such an incredible thing. So back to the menopause, we're going to have a little talk about your platform. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Because that is along those lines.
So my platform's a little bit like cruise station. There are lots of platforms and lots of trains. And I do work on so many projects, but my platform really for Miss Great Britain is making sure that women who are going through the menopause, just like I am, asking them to talk a little bit more openly about what they're going through, really. So I've got a campaign that's called Talking Taboo, and I want to kind of set this in motion after Miss Great Britain and encourage women going through the menopause. And that's not just women in the 40s and 50s. There are women in the 20s going through the menopause. Just to encourage them to talk a little bit more about their situation, because there are so many symptoms of the menopause that when you get to my age, you're in your 50s, you will put it down to, I'm just getting old. It's just me getting old. But there's so many symptoms of the menopause that people don't realise are menopausal symptoms. And you will just let them slide and say, it's okay, it's just me getting old. Brain fog, stress incontinence, a whole load of symptoms that people don't realise. Look, that may be the menopause. Go to your GP, go and see a menopause specialist, get tested, try some. It doesn't have to be HRT, it can be herbal remedies, it can be exercise is a great something great to do when you're going through the menopause. It eases so many of the symptoms. I'm not saying it's a cure, it's not at all. But to get the help and the support that you need, and people being able to talk a little bit more about the menopause and to just destigmatize it. It's such a taboo subject that we don't like talking about. And there's a lot in the media about it at the moment. I love following Davina McCall on Instagram. She does Menopause Mondays, and she's putting this out in the world, big wide world, for everybody to hear about. But still, we're scared to talk about it. We'll say the old-fashioned way. We don't want to talk about it because what is it? I think maybe people think if I admit them I'm going through the menopause, I'm getting old. You can be going through the menopause at any age. So part and parcel of what I want to do is to raise awareness of the kind of obscure symptoms of the menopause that people might associate with getting old, but they are menopausal symptoms. And just to get people talking a little bit more openly about it, to encourage other women who might not want to talk about it but will watch any of these interviews to say, that's my symptom, that's what I'm going through. I didn't think that was a symptom. Ring the doctors, get an appointment, get the help and the support you need. So it's all about really sort of raising the voice of people who are going through the menopause. And destigmatizing the word menopause, the dreaded M word that we don't talk about.
That's it. I mean, it's such a fabulous thing to talk about. And I mean, we are lucky actually where in my work, I'm very supported. Like they actually have menopause cafes in our workplace, which is wonderful for women that are going through the menopause. And I will gladly chat to you about that because, you know, there's lots of things that are positive that I've seen that is going on to make it more sort of, you know, more comfortable for people recognizing symptoms that they might not have thought of before. So I cannot wait to see this series kick in soon. I'm going to be really interested in that.
I did a live just for me, and I was talking about it was not so long ago. I was talking about my own symptoms, which, you know, it was so difficult for me to do that because they are symptoms that a lot of women suffer with but won't speak about because it is so taboo and so embarrassing. But if we don't make a stand and if we don't start talking about these things, nobody's ever going to talk about it and we'll just keep still living in dread. So I kind of launched that campaign by doing my own personal interview with myself, talking about my own symptoms. And I had so many friends who beforehand were saying, Deb, it's fine, just do it, or don't do it if you don't want to do it. And I really, really wanted to do it. And then after, the amount of women who messaged me to say, that is me, I didn't realise that was a symptom of the menopause. I'm going to ring my GP. Thank you so much for talking about it. And it was brilliant for me. I felt like I had a weight lifted off my shoulders, honestly. But I want to encourage women to do that and talk to me, and just to get these stories out in the open. I know it's difficult, but if you're able to talk about it openly like this, more people who see these kind of interviews are more inclined to go and visit the GP. And we need more GP surgeries with menopause specialists, because some don't. And you need to ring your GP and you need to say, do you have somebody who specialises in the menopause at the surgery? And if they don't, find another surgery. Find somebody who does, because there are people who are trained with the menopause who can help you without, you know, somebody guessing what you're going through. You need to go and speak to somebody who knows exactly what it is you're going through.
Yeah, that's completely correct, and it's such an important thing, and I can't wait to see what else you do with it, because you probably like really made a lot of women relieved and made them be able to think that they can talk about it, which is a big move forward, isn't it?
It is. Well, you've got to think to yourself, 50% of the population of the entire world will go through this.
Yeah, good point.
The other 50% are lying in bed under the covers with the windows open wide, freezing cold. So this is something that will affect everybody on the planet.
Yes, it certainly will. It certainly will. It's an absolutely fantastic thing. So I love it. It's brilliant. Such a good platform and such a good thing to talk about. So moving on now. Miss Pageant Queen. Now,
Yes.
as well as doing all these wonderful things that you do already, you do another few things that we're going to talk about now. You're non-stop woman. I love it. You also co-host and run an event, Miss Pageant Queen, that was recently just taken place alongside the PIAS. And I'll make sure I pronounce that right because I'm dyslexic. I have been pronouncing that wrong for 2 years, but we won't go into that. Can I talk to you about how and when these two events, I know they're on the same night, but how did you think of the idea, how it all came about? Where did it all start?
It was a conversation with Laura White. We're both 80s pageant girls, and we just got chatting one night, and we said, wouldn't it be great if there was a pageant just like it was in the 80s? That was all we had to say to each other before we came up with the idea of Miss Pageant Queen. It's just it's not exactly like the 80s, because in the 80s you could just turn up on the night and say you were entering and you were in. Obviously the logistics of the night do not enable us to be able to do that. However, girls can enter if they've never ever done a pageant before. We will guide them through the process. It's all about having fun. There are no requirements for an interview unless you want an interview. Side awards are an option. Charity work's an option. Appearances are an option. Everything is an additional option to the actual stage event on the night, and all the judges' scores are taken solely from the stage. And we just thought, because we've both got daughters, Heidi hated the interview round, and to have something where you could pick and choose which bit you wanted to do in that pageant. Some girls come and they want to do absolutely everything, and that's fine. And some girls message and say, is it true we don't have to do an interview? No, you don't have to do an interview. If you want to do it, you can do it, and it's not going to affect the scores at all, because we have additional titles for those interview rounds. And at the same time, I don't really know how this came about, but we just thought, wouldn't it be great to have an awards evening at the same time? Because we were talking about the logistics of a pageant, saying all those breaks where the girls have to go off and get changed and kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs. What could we do without having entertainment between those rounds? And we came up with the Pageant Industry Awards. And we loved the fact it was shortened to the PIAS because it sounded a little bit like the Oscars. So it just kind of came from some random conversation, sitting there talking and saying, let's do the PIAS, let's do Pageant Queen, and we'll give all the awards out in the break. So there's no lengthy break and no 20-30 minute section where everybody's just sitting around waiting for the girls to come back on stage. So it just came from like a random conversation, which was brilliant. We put it together and boom, I remember launching the PIAS on Facebook and put this little post out, and I didn't tell anybody it was me. And the next minute my phone was pinging and pinging and pinging. And there were people messaging saying, like I could see on like different feeds, who's this? Who's organising the Pageant Industry Awards? What's the Pageant Industry? Where's it coming from? Where's it going to be? Who's organising it? It's quite funny for me because I never told anybody it was me until after all the nominations came in. I'd announced all the judges, and after I'd announced the judges, I just said, "It's me, by the way. I'm doing the PIAS, and this is why, and this is what it's all about." So it was quite funny, really. Going to have a little coffee, John.
That's no worries. But no, it's absolutely brilliant. I just love the way that whole thing's come about. And it just, what I like about it is just such a relaxed pageant, isn't it? So, you know, you've taken all the stresses out of it. So like you say, the girls can pick and choose exactly what they want. And you told me a little bit about the age categories as well. So you could tell me a bit more about that, just for people that might not know.
So this year we've added a classic section in this year, just because we were literally inundated with women who wanted to enter. So we've got a junior section. I really hope this cold has gone by next week, you know, Dion, because my voice is getting huskier and huskier. So we've got a junior section, a teen section, a miss section, a Ms section and a classic section. And we also have another title, which is called Pageant Queen, Patron Queen. So the Patron Queen has an interview. So if you want to opt into that title, you have an interview on the day, and you bring with you not an appearance folder, you bring with you a Pageant Cv. So it's like actually applying for a job. So
right.
so in the Pageant Cv, you can put anything in there. It can be relating to pageants or not. It can be relating to your hobbies. So imagine you were applying for a job. You would put your hobbies and interests and what you've done previously, where you've worked previously, and that's what the Pageant Cv is. So have you entered a pageant before? Yeah. Well, tell us about it. What did you do? What did you enjoy about it? So girls kind of write a whole little book thing of, you know, I've done this and I've done that. In my spare time, I do this. I work here, I've worked there. And what will all of those things that you do in life, how will you be able to bring them to our table? What can you bring to the table with all the experience you've got from other pageants, jobs, hobbies, interests, family, friends, whatever it might be? Put all that together and tell us about it. And then they'll sit in an interview and talk about themselves. And so it's not necessarily pageantry. It's everything and anything, just like applying for a job and going into a job interview. So that's the Patron Queen, is the Pageant Cv in an interview. Very different.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know how it all worked, but that sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And those people watching, they'll understand, you know, you'll get lots of entries next year, no doubt. I just can't wait to come and see it. I mean, obviously you do have the best host there. I mean, she's very, very, very exciting. I do like all this flashing tambourines and
oh my God, it was the funniest. Well, you know, we've been talking about the flashing tambourines for 12 months now. And it was about 4 or 5 o'clock. Jen Atkin was doing a sound check because she was performing for us. And while she was doing the sound check, I'd given Kat and Laura the flashing tambourines. So Kat started sort of messing about on the stage while she was doing this sound check. So Jen turned around and she said, right, when I sing this song, you three have got to come on as my backing singers. Well, what did we do? We just said, okay. So we didn't even think about it. So Kat just said, right, we'll go on. Just follow me, do what I do. So that's what we did. We just, and it apparently it looked like a choreographed routine that had been rehearsed, and it so wasn't. It was so randomly, just straight on, following Kat. Just, I literally can't believe we did it. But somebody did mention that the best photograph that we've got is the photograph where Kat, Laura and I are dancing on the back of the stage and Jen's singing. It's just a brilliant photograph and it was so much fun.
I've seen that. Yeah. It's
but
like
Kat is so funny. Kat is just so hilarious. You know, she's planning now what she's going to be saying in 12 months' time. She's planning her script already.
I can't wait.
She's trying to work out how she's going to enter the room that's going to be even more epic than she did this time.
Well, I'm getting my ticket now. That's it. You know, it's got to be done. I need to see this. But no, what a group of incredible women. Love the way that you all just have such a laugh together, because that's what it's all about. Life is too short, and it's not good to take everything too seriously. And this is why I always enjoy your company and all of those companies, because you just always have fun. You work hard and are amazing queens and contestants, but you do have fun, and that's the most important, definitely. So
do you know what? A massive part of the other part of my platform is exactly what you've just said.
Yeah.
I am now in my 50s. I've spent decades working on a career, building a business, raising a family. I always try to say to people, it doesn't matter how busy you are in life, don't forget about working on yourself. It's so important. And we have our swimming, we have pageantry, and we have all these things outside of our normal life, which is brilliant because those things are just for us. But I know so many women who don't have anything outside of work and family. And I just think it's so important, even if it's a 5-minute walk in the rain by yourself to collect your own thoughts. it's just so important to have some time to yourself. And another thing that I just want to encourage, particularly women of my age, because you probably know friends exactly the same who either go to work, pick the kids up from school, get home, put the dinner on, put the kids to bed, and that's it, and they don't do anything else. And you can really, really lose yourself. The problem there is when those kids leave home and all of a sudden there's this empty nest, and all you've done in life is look after, which is great, which I've got 3 children, and that is part and parcel of having a family. But you can spend a few minutes taking some time out for yourself to do things that you want to do for yourself, because when those kids have left home and you do have the empty nest, you'll still have something for you, something that you can enjoy, something that you can focus on and be passionate about. We're lucky because we have that with our pageantry and with swimming, but I do have friends who don't have anything else outside of those kind of 4 walls. And another thing that I want to try and encourage women to find their passions, basically. It's so important.
It could be anything, couldn't it? It doesn't have to obviously be, we're not saying like, get up and do pageantry if you don't want to do that. It could be anything. Like it could have a hobby. It could have
exactly.
It could go in curries. I don't know.
It doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't. You could on a Wednesdays walk to the local library, join a club, walk in the rain. You can have things that aren't going to cost you any money. Just something that that this is what I do. What do you do in your spare? I've got so many friends, and I'll say, "What do you do in your spare time?" Well, I take the kids to football. No, what do you do in your spare time for you? Because the kids are going to grow up and they're going to have their own lives. And then if you've spent your whole life taking the kids, which is great. I used to take my boys to football and cricket. Heidi's always danced. But I've needed something in my life, because you can so easily lose yourself. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in your 50s. Your job is tickety-boo, it's ticking over, it's fine. You've done all that sort of working on your career or your business. Then the kids have left home. And then what do you do with your time? You've got to start trying to find something else to do that's just for you. And it's just so important to have something in your life to focus on for yourself.
110%. Honestly, that is just such good advice, and I completely agree with that altogether. So I tell you what, we've just about come to the end of our interview now, and do you know what? You didn't even cough that much. You're okay.
Do you know, I've got the tissue and I've got the water, and I pretty much know that I'm going to cough and cough and cough when I come off camera now.
Oh, bless you. No, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us here at Pageantland, even though you have felt a bit poorly today. And from all of us here at Pageantland, we wish you all the best of luck for next week.
Thank you so much.
A week and a bit, isn't it? So what's the exact date? It is the 20...
Next Wednesday, I'll be driving down. The fashion show's on the Thursday, and the final is on the Friday at the Athena in Leicester. So,
Oh, amazing. So, well, good luck from all of us.
Thank you, darling.
Supporting for you and screaming for you. And thanks again so much for coming on here.
Thank you for having me, sweet.
Oh, you're welcome. I better put up who we got next week.
Say what, sorry?
I said, I'm just going to find out who we've got next week, but my little phone has crashed. So let's pop her up. So next week we have got the Miss North Cumbria GB. So one last one to go for the Miss Great Britain contestants before the grand final. So we'll be looking forward to speaking with her next week. And thanks again, Debbie. You have been absolutely incredible, and we've just absolutely love to have you on. And we'll see you next week.
Here. You take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.